So good morning. Hold on, Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to talk about value proposition and then move into making and receiving offers. So a value proposition is a simple and precise description of the benefits the customer will get from working with you. You should clearly convey all the things you do to earn the fee that you charge. So that would mainly be on a listing, because as you know, when you're working with the buyer, your value proposition as far as monetary is usually free. So it's a covenant between you and the customer. All righty, next slide, Shlaya. Next. Next. All right. So here's your value. So you craft a simple and precise description of the benefits for your client. That could be either in a buyer presentation, a listing presentation that you can put together, and you're going to convey what you will do to earn the fee you charge. That again would be most likely in your listing presentation, and then covenant, make your value proposition a covenant between you and the client. So go to the next slide real quick. That's not it. Forward. Next. Yeah, go back. That was it. Sorry. Perfect. So 3 aspects of service. You got your purpose, knowing the underlying purpose of the real estate profession. 2, value proposition, have and communicate a clear sense how you deliver on that purpose. And fiduciary, exhibit a continual drive to put your client's needs above all else. So when Gary Keller was researching for the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, he noted that every top producing agent he spoke with had a deep and almost inherent sense of service. You cannot grow a real estate business if you don't prioritize your client's experience above everything else. A stellar experience is how you earn your commission and get referrals. So we've identified 3 aspects of service, which I just talked about. Knowing the underlying purpose of the real estate, a compelling value proposition, and fiduciary. Together, these aspects guarantee that your clients will have the best possible. Marissa's trying to get him to me in case she's in. Together, these aspects guarantee your clients will have the best possible real estate experience. All right. So what, next slide. So question, what is the underlying purpose of real estate? It is very, very different for buyers and sellers. So for buyers, it's about finding them the right home at the best price in the right time with the least amount of problems. For sellers, it's about netting them the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of problems. So what happens to your clients' buying or selling experience if you don't understand that this is the underlying purpose of real estate? This is where y'all talk about. come off mute. What do you think happens? If they don't understand, what happens to their selling experience? They don't even understand the process, what's going on, etc.
There'll be a lot of confusion and miscommunication.
And who do you think they're going to get frustrated with, George?
Well, they're going to get frustrated with you as the agent and the whole process.
Absolutely. So it's significant that one phrase shared with the buyers and sellers. And that was the last one I said, with the least amount of problems. So as a realtor, what are some of the problems you have to anticipate for your clients? And what can we do to avoid them? So even if y'all haven't transacted yet, I'm sure you've transacted as a buyer or a seller sometime in your life, maybe perhaps. So think of yourself as that buyer or thinking yourself as that seller. What's some of the problems that arose?
Some realtor agents didn't want to walk through every single part of the contracts, including the dual agent part. So there was a lot of confusion on how much they would provide in the transaction versus what was expected in the beginning of the transaction. So failing to explain absolutely everything irritates a lot of people.
Okay, that is absolutely perfect, Hannah. So I'm going to share with y'all something. If you're the listing agent, you're going to take that listing for the first time. You're going over the listing paperwork, you're filling out everything, you go to the listing agreement. This is the time, guys, to tell your seller and start talking about dual agency. It's not the time when it arises and then you have to go and explain. So let's walk through this a little bit. I'm going to a listing appointment and they've decided to list with me. So here's a conversation I'm going to have. I'm going to say, guys, in real estate, we have agency laws in the Commonwealth of Virginia that we have to abide by. And right now, by you signing this listing agreement, you have hired me to represent you. But at the end of the day, I might be doing an open house on your property and I'm still representing you. How do you feel if I end up having a buyer that wants to buy your house? How do you feel in that situation about dual agency? Well, Alice, tell us more. What does that mean? With all due respect, I need permission to you to able to represent somebody else and represent you at the same time. Let me tell you what happens in our laws. Because I have an agency agreement with you as your listing agent, and I probably might already have a buyer agency agreement with them, and by chance, my buyers who I was already working with or have been working with actually want to come see your house. And you might have come second. So I have two agency agreements. So I have due diligence to represent you and represent them. But in order for me to represent you both at the same time, I'm going to have to present both of you with an agency agreement showing both of you, I'm going to be a dual agent in this transaction. Well, what does that mean? That means I kind of become a puppet. And there's but so much I can do in this transaction to fully represent you and fully represent them. I have to be real careful not to cross agency lines. So if they ask me, Alice, as my buyer's agent, what do you think I should offer on this home? I have to say, well, Mr. Byers, the listing, the sales price is 390,000. All I can tell you is the list price is 390,000. You are very, very limited as a true dual agent in what you can say or do in that transaction. So you have to get permission from that seller. Are you allowing me to be a dual agent in this transaction? But you have to explain what that means. Can it be done? You bet your bottom it can be done. But are your sellers and your buyers getting true representation in that transaction? The answer is yes and no. You're very limited in what you can advise. Does that make sense? So if we went ahead and did that and everybody agreed, and I go present my buyers I'm representing, to say I might have had them first, to my sellers that I'm their listing agent, and they go, Alice, should we take this? Can they go more? Can I answer that question?
No.
Say it again.
No.
I cannot. Because I have an agency agreement of confidentiality for that buyer. And here I'm supposed to have an agency confidentiality for my seller. Doesn't that put both of them in a sucky position? Yes. So, guys, I decided a very, very, very long time ago, and this is me, and a lot of agents are going to disagree with what I'm about to say. I don't like it. So if I have the seller first and I have an open house, I will definitely 100% show the property. But if one of them decides they want to buy it, I have always got another agent in my office to write the offer and refer it. I still get some referral money for getting that other agent involved, but I feel uncomfortable that the buyer can't have full, true representation, and then I'm not fully representing my seller. So I might get a referral back on it, but I always feel like everybody needs their own agent to truly have representation through start through finish in the transaction. But that's me. The sticky part has been for me when I had the buyer first and I've been showing them property for months, and then all of a sudden I get a listing, and lo and behold, it's the perfect listing for them. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've been representing this buyer for a month and I just got, so this is what I do. I get another agent in the office and say, listen, I would like you to step in on my seller's side. I had the buyer first. I would like you to come in. I will pay you a referral fee of nothing else but to present this offer to my sellers. Because I want to keep this arm's length transaction. I have had these buyers for a month. If you could just step in and present my offer, I will take it over once the negotiations have been done. But will you step in for me? And on the home inspection, will you present? So sometimes I'll say, will you come in? I'll pay you 25% for just on these negotiable items. So I don't have anybody upset with me that they feel like I'm not representing them. It gets sticky, but I don't like dual agency. I know it's done all the time. Your team leaders of your broker, of your teams might think differently because they'll say, no, I feel like I create everything fairly, and you can do it. And I've been a realtor for 17 years, and I've done a true dual agent transaction 6 times. And I have done it. I don't like it because I just feel like I can't make recommendations. I can't give advice. I just feel like a puppet. This is it. Well, Alice, would you? I don't know. The price is the price is the price. Well, do you think, I can't answer that question. Well, do you think they have a little bit more to give? No, I can't answer that. I don't know. Because I can't even ask that question because I'm the dual agent. So, but that's me. Does anybody want to come in and talk about if they've been in that situation already, or if you were even the client, how that made you feel? Hannah, sounds like you had that situation. Could you tell us a little bit more of your story?
Yeah, my mother, when she listed her house, the listing agent had just had her sign the listing agreement, didn't mention anything about dual agency. She already had a buyer in mind from the very beginning of the transaction and didn't explain dual agency to my mother very well and kind of downplayed on how little she could actually say or do in the transaction. And for the longest time, my mother was debating taking her to the realtor board to sue her over it.
Because she felt like she was being treated unfairly.
Yeah, she felt taken advantage of. She had no idea in the very beginning that the realtor couldn't say as much as she did. And then the entire transaction, she felt more like the realtor was playing favors with the buyer and not being treated fairly.
Right. Right. And so, you know, I throw this out there and y'all might have heard me say it once or twice already, but I usually ask the client, I said, so let me, and some people go, Alice, I don't care. We just want you to sell the house. And that's all fine and good when I explain agency, but I'm just asking y'all, if you're married and you go to get a divorce, would you feel comfortable using the same attorney in your divorce? Because that's essentially what's happening here.
Yeah.
You're relying on one person to do all your negotiations. And they have knowledge of what? Information on both sides. So do you feel you would be treated 100% like you're protected in that transaction? It just can get you in big trouble if something goes wrong. And that is on the ethics hearings I have sat on. Guys, we've had more agency issues of dual agency where somebody in that transaction felt like they were not being truly represented. And who always loses on those ethic boards? It's not the buyer and it's not the seller. Who's the third person?
Agent.
The agent loses. Yeah, they always do. So just cause to the wind, be very careful. Take extremely good notes and keep them for a long time. Should anything arise in the transaction that was unforeseen and somebody feels like they were not represented well and you were the only agent. My license is very important to me. That's why I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it. But we're going to move on from that. So speaking of our value proposition, next slide, let's define it exactly. Your value proposition distills your service offerings into a succinct set of benefits for your client. It states that you do for the client to earn your commission and helps to explain the complexity of what you do. It also helps you hold accountable to high standards. So as we reflect on this definition, what do you see as the value of your value proposition? And why is it important enough to be included in our 3 aspects of service? Who would like to answer? What do you see as the value of your value proposition? Keep in mind, the value proposition helps your clients understand your value, your expertise. It protects your commission and builds strong and trusting relationships. Roxanne, only because I see you on the screen. If you were in front of me today and I'm interviewing 3 agents to list my say I have a $400,000 house. And I say, Roxanne, why should I hire you other than 2 other agents? And I'm not even telling you who they are, but tell me why I should hire you today to list my beautiful home that I love so much.
Because I bring in expertise to show your home. Your people that will come in to view will already have been approved, and I'll be able to advertise for you as well. I don't know.
Okay. And I'm sorry I put you on the spot, but Roxanne, you have to know. And let me tell you why you have to know. People trust and want to work with people that are confident. Okay? So work on that. Work with hope and just in having that answer flow like you've been doing it forever. Just confidence. So let's role reverse it. Okay? So you asked me.
Alice, why would I want to have you represent me in the sale of my home?
Well, Roxanne, first and foremost, I just want to appreciate the time and of me coming out to see your beautiful home today. And not, all agents are very different and they bring something different to the table. What I bring is I've been doing this for a long time. And my answers will be different than yours, okay? But I've been doing this for a long time. And I am an advocate, not only for real estate. I work with other realtors throughout the state of Virginia, just in investing in RPAC for home ownership. So the mortgage premiums and the mortgage interest insurance, I've been working on your behalf behind closed doors with Congress to make sure that as a property owner, that you have that write-off on your taxes. I just bring so much to the table, not only in marketing and put it in the MLS, but I know other agents that I can pick up the phone and call the minute I list, because I know they may have buyers just in your neighborhood for this. I wanted to make this a very smooth transaction for you, and I don't want any hiccups along the way. So you're hiring me to prevent you from having headaches. And I bring that to the table, is making this a smooth transaction for you. So you can go on looking for your next home. You can go on shopping for furniture of where you're going and leave all the headaches to me. Now, I know that was long, and I don't do that always, but it depends on the price level and what it is. But you might say, if it's in Bedford and you've been in Bedford a long time, you might bring to the table, listen, this is my home. I am selling in my neighborhood, where I grew up. So you have to go into your soul, into your why, into what makes you valuable for that particular transaction. Like George, if he's an auctioneer and he might have some experience and some auction levels around this particular area of where he's having a listing appointment. If he's bringing the knowledge of just being in an auction situation, whatever it may be. And for Hannah, it could be of a neighborhood in which she grew up, or Marissa, she'd already been showing homes to a buyer in that particular neighborhood. So she already knows what the buyers are looking for right in that area of price. Whatever it is, take it and build upon that value proposition for that particular seller. But you gotta know what it is. Because if you don't know what it is, you certainly can't convey what it is. And some people are interviewing. You know what, at the end of the day, Roxanne, they don't care. They really don't. They don't care if you've been in the business a year or 17. They care if they feel like you're confident enough to negotiate on their behalf, that they have a sense of level of trust in that transaction when you're there on the listing agreement. That's why a lot of times when I get there, I don't go straight to the kitchen table. I ask if we can start at the threshold from their home. And do you mind a role reversal here, Mr. Seller? And I show you your home for the very first time. I want you to pretend like you're my buyers. Let me tour this home with you. Work with me here. I want you to look that this is no longer your home. This is a house. Let's tour this house as you are buyers looking at it for the first time. And at the end, we will sit down at the kitchen table and discuss what you've just seen. And then I say, based on what we just toured, is your house ready to list today, Mr. Seller? What have I done? First of all, I've exposed them of a seller looking at their own home from rose-colored glasses of a buyer. I've never had a seller tell me they're ready to sell that minute because they want to do a few more things because oh my God, I can't have a buyer see this. I would be very disappointed if my buyer saw this, but they didn't see it in their mindset of a seller. I had to get them to think like a buyer. But I'm already building what?
Relationship.
I am building that relationship as their soon-to-be listing agent in confidence for them to even start answering questions with me. Guys, they don't want to be exposed by yet another listing agent coming in their house. They're already going to work with me. It's genius. It works. Don't be mean about it. Be very gentle. But it's very interesting when you do a role reversal and they think like the other person, how much they all of a sudden want to work with you because they just feel like you're helping them with preparing their home to get the best price. And you can say that. Guys, I just do this little exercise because my job, is to get you the highest price for your home the minute we unleash it for sale. I want the best professional photos, not camera phone pictures. When this beautiful home hits the market, I want it to sell for the highest price to that first person who walks in the door. I want it to be ready. Did that sound like I was confident? Yep. All right. So it just asked, I really jumped ahead. It says, how does changing the client's perception about who they are going to help in your value proposition? Well, I just went over that. So let's, next slide. Oh, I guess we don't know how to say this. Value proposition. We can all probably practice how to say value proposition. Okay. So next one. That's funny. Functionary versus fiduciary. The third and final aspect of service is fiduciary. What is fiduciary and how is it different than functionary? Let's go way back to middle school. So think yourself as a 6th or 7th grader and you're in English class. Fiduciary is both an adjective and a noun. As an adjective, it refers to something dealing with trust, especially relationships, like Roxanne just said. You have a fiduciary duty to your clients to protect their best interests during what will likely be the largest, most frightening transaction in their lifetime. Okay? As a noun, fiduciary refers to the person who has a fiduciary obligation. You are your client's fiduciary. Does that make sense? A functionary is one who completes the task for the client, where a fiduciary completes the task and goes beyond by placing their client's interest ahead of all others, even their own. So being a fiduciary is a really big deal. It's an honor. It's more important than ever in today's market to wear the badge of honor proudly. Helping your clients understand your fiduciary role is a big part of your value proposition. So what are some ways that you serve as your client's fiduciary during a real estate transaction? Come off mute. I'll ask the question again. What are some ways that you serve as your client's fiduciary during a real estate transaction?
You're providing them financial information related to the value of their home.
Yes.
From a fiduciary responsibility, you got to make sure that that value is the most that you can get for that home in the market area that it's in, honest and truthfully.
Okay. So let me give up another scenario, and I promise, this is a big one when I say I promise, you will run into this if you keep your career in real estate at least once, if not 10 times. And here it goes. I'm going to use you, George, because you're on the screen and I can see you. Hey, George, I'm thinking about selling my house. My address is 13 Revolutionary Way. Can you give me a ballpark of what you think you can get for that?
Can I give you a ballpark, or can I give you a value-added market price based on the information available from tax records and MLS? Is that what you're asking, or?
So I'm just a buddy of yours. Hey, George, you know where I live. You've been in my house a couple hundred times. We've been buddies. What do you think my house would sell at? So I'm gonna pretend like I'm you.
Okay.
I'd be like, Scott, you know what? You're right. I have been at your house a long time, but before I can give you really the best educated answer for that, when can I meet you at your house? I remember you were doing a couple upgrades. I as many times as I've been in your living room, I haven't been down in your basement. I mean, I don't even realize all the value adds you've done to your own house. And I don't want to just throw out a figure, and I'm not even in the ballpark for you, Scott. So could I come over tonight at 6 o'clock and just do a quick walkthrough so I can take some, educated notes and then run some numbers for you and get you that answer tomorrow? So instead of you throwing out a number, what did that answer do for him, even as your buddy?
It provides him some insurance or comfort level that you're professional and that you're going to give him an honest assessment, not just winging it.
Thank you. I watch over and over and over and over agents. I don't care where they are. Based on looking at you're around, how can you honestly throw out a number if you've never walked through the threshold of that house? Are you kidding me right now? To me, if an agent did that and I was interviewing, I'd scratch them right off the list. I'm like, how do they know that I've added granite countertops since I moved in? How do they know we didn't re-put in brand new floors all over the first level? How do they know what my house even looks like inside since I bought it maybe even 6 months ago? You're basing off my neighbor's house when I just did 100,000 renovation on my kitchen? You didn't even ask a question. I don't know. I just feel like you look more professional and you become that fiduciary of adding value of, I can't just provide you a number. Give me 5, 10, 15 minutes of a walk through your home, showing me the things you've done, the enhancements you've done, the fence, whatever, before I can professionally give you my educated expert number of what I think the value of your house would be based off the recent sales. Because I gotta make some adjustments. So value, I'm trying to share with you, make yourself look like the expert, right? All right. Okay, it says go to your participants guide on 4 to 6 and look at page 5. There's a space to write about yourself. And this is a great exercise where you list your strengths and your perspectives. So just take just a quick couple of minutes and write down a few responses. And I will be right back while y'all are doing that. So take about 3-4 minutes and write down your strengths and your perspectives. Be right back. All right, guys, I just thought of something while you're writing down your strengths. I don't want y'all to misunderstand something I just said, because I was just thinking about it. When I told that seller that I'd like to come to their home to be able to give them an educated professional price, don't mistake that I did not come prepared when I came to their home. Because sometimes they're in a hurry to list the house. So I'm still gonna come with ammunition, meaning I'm gonna have all the data with a range, low, medium to high, based on the condition of their home and listing agreements and listing paperwork and everything I need to still list that house that day if it's ready. And even if it's not ready, and I'll talk about that. And then when I see the condition of the home, I'll be able to gauge, because I've already done my homework, of where they're gonna fall in that equation. Does that make sense? So don't come not prepared. I didn't want y'all to think y'all had an extra day to and not come prepared, because you might not have a second chance to come back. So you could say, yes, I'd love to be able to come for my interview. I'm gonna come prepared as much as possible, but keep in mind, I'll probably be making adjustments based on the condition of your home because I haven't even seen it yet. So that's why I can't just give you a ballpark over the phone. Okay. All right. So let's jump on reflection of your value. Who would like to share some of their strengths, which you wrote down?
I have 3.
Okay, hi, Marissa.
Hey, I have fact checking because that's a big thing for me. I'm a planner, so like you were saying, prep everything before you go. That's a big thing. And then I'm really good at being a listener, which makes people feel more comfortable because you're actually listening to what they're saying.
Yeah, you're such a good listener, Marissa. I found myself repeating myself 30 times yesterday because all you were doing was listening to me. Love you. You're great. Yeah, listening's huge. That's great. So out of those strengths that you just said, how can you put them into a value proposition if you were being interviewed for a listing?
So like when you were saying, why would I hire you as an agent?
Yeah.
So for me, like, especially with going, I would just let them know, so we'll use the one that I have coming up as an example. she's from Bedford, so I would definitely, let her know this is where I was born and raised, as well as the rest of my family and my husband's family. So we're all, from Bedford. We understand the area. We know several people in Bedford. And the biggest thing is I'm going to listen to you throughout the process to make sure that you understand if you have questions, if you're comfortable. And, for her, I've already done a report. So I'll bring her a report that I've printed out and then update it as we're there. Because I know we can update. Can we update it while we're there on our phones through the app?
When you say update what?
Because she's done updates in the house and I haven't ran a report for the updates that she's done. Like a CMA.
Oh, you just start like, it's kind of like an appraiser. You do subtractions and additions. Like,
Okay.
for example, if somebody has added a $60,000 kitchen, does that mean you add $60,000 to the house?
No.
No. You'll never get total full value for exactly what you paid because everybody still has a kitchen. You enjoyed the value, but will they maybe get 25, 30 more thousand for the price because of the updated kitchen? Maybe. I mean, there's always adjustments, but like a half bath, you would normally get, 4,500 more. A 2-car garage. I mean, you start learning as you go how an appraiser will give a 2-car garage versus a 1-car garage. That's why I totally love getting an interview with an appraiser because they change how they do things almost every year. And one of my value adds that I brought to the table, I had an appraiser on standby. I took an appraiser back in Williamsburg when I listed and sold there. I met with an appraiser once a quarter and said, okay, so a brick front versus brick on 4 sides. Show me how you're doing that in an appraiser. Because that helped me when I was going out pricing homes, because at the end of the day, it had to appraise, right? So I really needed to know what an appraiser was doing for me to price the home correctly. So it's probably the best lunch, asking an appraiser to go out to lunch and asking some really good questions and how they value stuff will help you be such a better realtor. But you'll know, like you'll have a range of what's been selling in the neighborhood, the CMA, you'll have a low, you'll medium, a high. And then you get there and it could be meticulous and awesome off the chart. Well, honestly, you go to the high end just based off the condition. But if you see it has a 25-year-old roof and and they don't want to change it, they have already a 15-year HVAC system, well, you know what? You're starting to make deductions and you're not going to be on the high end that all that has just been done. Right?
Yes.
So who else can tell me some of the strengths they wrote down? All right, we're going to move on. All right, next slide. Next. Okay, what do buyers want? So this graph covers top 3 responses and categories, everything else as other. You can see the complete list in your handout on page 6. So this says 52% help find the right home to purchase. 14% help buyer negotiate the terms of sale. 11% help with price negotiations. 23% others. This was based off a 2018 home profile from home buyers from NAR. 52% help finding the right home to purchase. Very interesting. You know, what cracks me up about that? So many buyers tend to find their house now before they even hire a realtor. Did y'all know that? Hey, Marissa, I saw you on Facebook. We want to go see 123 Winding Way. They already know what house they want to go see. Because of why? What's changed in the last 3 years? More what? What has COVID done?
People spend a lot of time at home, a lot of time looking at their home and realizing that they either need a bigger house or they need to sell their house because they can get more money for it. All kinds of reasons. But I mean, people have access to information already.
That's right. And the pandemic made a lot of people stay at home a lot more. And people, even different generations who didn't normally, I will speak of my own mother. She relied heavily on her phone and the computer, which she never did before the pandemic. And they start exploring, and through technology, they start looking around. God, I thought I liked my house, but now that I'm sitting in it for 18 months, I don't even like my house. You know? People started clearing out their attics, their basements. I'm either going to move or I'm going to build on or make some renovations. So I got to tell you, I think that statistic will look a lot different in 2021 of what buyers want than 2018. Just saying. All right, next slide. Oh, look at this. 31% reputation of agent. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. Guys, this is everything. So Hannah mentioned, and I do not want to know who it is, Hannah, but Hannah mentioned a listing agent that her mom, well, now I know, will never use again, and felt not truly represented in the transaction. How many, even if it's one, do you think Hannah's mom told, if somebody said, oh, I saw you sold your house, how did that go? Well, it was an unpleasant experience. Oh, who was your agent? XXX. Do you think doing that dual agency helped or hurt that agent?
That hurt that agent because it messed up the reputational perspective by her mother.
That's right.
She lost a buyer client. She was already a repeat client for the listing for 15 years because they sold her the property that she sold again. So she refused to use her as a buyer agent again, even though her first experience was phenomenal.
Well, it takes, I always say it takes tons and tons and tons of time to trust somebody, but it takes only a minute to not trust them anymore. Think about that. Reputation in this business, guys, is everything. I remember having a house listed on the street in Williamsburg Net 2 doors down was another house. It was one of these, I hate saying cookie cutter, one of these homes where, you know, it's a builder that has names of them, like the names of the models. So my model and that model was the same model. And basically the floor plan, if anything, was the same, but switched. But it was the same house. Pretty much the same price. They showed, this buyer agent showed the listing, my listing and 2 doors down listing. And they chose my listing. And I asked the buyer's agent after it closed, I said, out of curiosity, I know that you had to have shown the other house that was virtually the same as ours. What made your client pick ours? Do you know what she said to me? Alice, I have done a transaction with you and it went very, very smooth. It was very professional. And I knew I did not have to worry about headaches in the transaction. I just knew it'd be better for my clients transactional wise. So they asked me, with everything being the same, what would you choose? And I said, I gotta tell you, I've worked with Alice before, and with everything being the same, it's gonna be a wonderful transaction. She makes it a win-win all the way through. I just think it will be pleasant for you to go this direction. That's why they picked the house, because of my reputation of making transactions win-win. Guys, that was the biggest compliment I could have had in my business. So don't be a hard butt in this business. Make it a win-win. Even if it means sometimes money's got to come out of your pocket, it will pay itself in spades. Reputation-wise, look at that percentage difference. Agent is honest and trustworthy, 19%. Agent is a friend or family member. Trust, that's underlying trust. Agent's knowledge of the neighborhood. Come with your ammunition, come loaded, know what has sold, know what's currently listed. My God, never go on a listing presentation if you don't know the recent transactions of that neighborhood. Shame on you. And then other might be. All right, next slide. All right, what do the sellers want? All right, look at your list here. Help seller market the home to potential buyers. Help price the home competitively. Do you do your sellers an injustice or a justice by overpricing their house?
Injustice.
An injustice. Why is that?
In this current market, if it's overpriced and it sits longer than a week, people start to think something is wrong with the house itself and not just the price point.
I could come through the Zoom and give you a hug. Honestly, that is, guys, if I want y'all to remember this, okay? It's a little theory called the dented pan theory. So if you go into the supermarket, they have been taught at the supermarket to pull the dented pans to the front. And a good shopper does what? What does a good shopper do?
Pick from the middle.
They move, so the dented can is in front for somebody in a hurry just to grab, right? But a good shopper slides over the dented can and gets the one that's not dented, right? Right. So you don't want to make, as a listing agent, that house be a dented can. So you want to make sure your pictures, you want to make sure everything is done prior to you listing it. Let's just say they go, I really want to hurry and get on market, and your professional photographer of those good pictures can't take the pictures till Thursday, and they want to list it on Tuesday, and you're like, listen, you have hired me to get the most out of your home. Let me explain to you how this works. If I put these less than great photos on your house, that's what everybody's going to see the first time it goes out. And they might not go revisit the house when the new photos are uploaded in 3 days. We really need to make an educated decision here and wait for the better photos, because we want this pristine and perfect when it hits the market. Because it is my job, Mr. Seller, to get you the best possible price. Did I sound confident? Would you as a seller wait those couple, 3 days? Yeah, you would. Do what you would do if it was your own home, right? So help buyer find a home, help find buyer for home. Oh, help find the buyer a home, help with negotiation and dealing with buyers. I'd like to add what the other is, dealing with the other agent that's unreasonable. Anyway, so next slide, next slide. Seller's value. There's that reputation of agent. Agent is honest and trustworthy. Agent is a friend or family member. Agent's experience. All right, next slide. Who are your competitors? Real estate has undergone significant changes in the past few years. Investors have come in with the intent to disrupt the entire industry. iBuyers are driving down commission prices, and some companies are moving toward eliminating agents altogether. Guys, I can tell you some horror stories that I've heard is coming, already happening in the state of Washington. It's a mess out there, guys. But Zillow is getting into the business of just using them, not agents, paying people to just unlock a door. All your contracts will be through Zillow. I mean, they are eventually trying to eliminate our profession. So we better know what our value proposition is, because changes are coming. So next slide. Next slide. We've already talked about that app. Next slide. Next. All right. So basically, I want you all to practice and role play with a friend or your significant other or whoever. Somebody in the office, me, if you want to role play with me, I love role playing. But work on what your value proposition is, to the point where it just flows. You don't have to think about it, okay? Because that confidence level is going to distinguish yourself from your competition. All right, go to the next slide. Next. All right, before we move into the next session of make and receive offers, what's a couple ahas over what we went over for the last hour?
The percentages we looked at of what each like buyer and seller are both looking for the most.
Isn't that interesting?
You don't think that those type of things are, I mean, even the little ones that are broken out to 2 or 3%, you don't think all the time that people are always looking for that, but it's really in there because I mean, they pulled it and that's what they're looking for.
Yeah. So, I mean, Marissa, if I was in Bedford County and somebody came to me and, hey, lived here all my life, my husband, my family, I mean, I'm a Bedford girl. I gotta tell you, that's value proposition for me if I was selling a home in Bedford. So use it, girl. That's huge. So definitely use that. All right. Shalia's gonna bring us up to make and receive offers. I want everybody to just take just two minutes, quick break while she's getting that out. Use the little ladies and gents room and get yourself a water or something. And I'll see y'all back in about 2-3 minutes. All right. All right, if you can click away, Shalaya, to the slide that says the offer process. There we go. All right, is everybody back on? Shalaya, does it look like everybody's back on? Can't see them.
Yes, I think you're good.
Okay, thank you. So funny how I can't see y'all, but y'all can see. All right. So once a buyer has found their perfect home, the seller starts looking forward to concluding the sale of their property. This is where the fun and magic begins. So here's the offer process. Buyer makes an offer. Seller responds in one of three ways. They counter the offer, they accept the offer, or they reject the offer. Okay? So I need to pause right here because I think a lot of people don't realize you can do this. It's part of my training. So George, let's say you made an offer on a property and you haven't heard back yet, and you didn't put a expiration of the offer when you made it, and then you show another house and he goes, God, George, I really like this one better. Let's go ahead and make an offer on this one. What do you need to do?
On that first offer, that's still an open offer to that client, so you need to provide a offer termination or rescind that offer.
Okay, so this is how it's done. It's very, very simple, guys. Very, very simple. You take the first page of the offer, you draw a big line across the front, you get your buyers of the offer to initial, and you scan it over by email. You text and make a quick phone call. I'm very sorry, this is George with Keller Williams. We have rescinded, we have withdrawn our offer. It's on your email. They don't need to know why. It's none of their business. But you need to make sure you withdraw the offer before you're making other offers. Because let me tell you what has happened to an agent in Richmond, Virginia. They made an offer and they made another offer because the market was so crazy, and they made another offer. And lo and behold, two sellers ratified both offers with no changes. That buyer is in doo-doo land. They have just said they can buy both of these houses because they forgot to withdraw all these offers. Now, who is probably going to be want to complain on that?
Agent.
The agent. So please, please don't be out making a whole bunch of offers without withdrawing the offers you've made first. Do one at a time, guys, please. What a mess. Okay, so let's say they countered the offer. Let's run down that process first. So guys, this is what I need y'all to understand. You're the buyer agent and you've made an offer. And that seller's made one change, one, that is now a new offer back to your buyer, new offer. So if the buyer doesn't like that change and chooses to do nothing, can the seller revert their change and sign the original offer?
No.
No. So now it's in the buyer's seat to either accept that counter or do what? Counter again. Or just to say, nah, we're moving on. Do you have to withdraw your offer? No, it's a new offer to you. Okay. So you can make, okay, well, we'll make that change, but because they made that change, we're going to require another change. Now, hear me out on this. So now you say, okay, well, they countered price and we're okay with the price, but now we might need to adjust the closing costs we asked for. So we're going to make that change. So is yet that not another new offer back to the seller? Yes. So if the seller in that time period of negotiating back and forth with your offer, and they get another offer they like better, do they have to answer your change before accepting the other offer?
Yeah.
No,
No.
because you've made a change, which in their mind is a brand new offer. So just because you're in negotiation, whoever's got that new counter offer last is in the driver's seat. And they can either choose to accept or move on. So be very, very careful when you're representing a buyer and they really, 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 really want the house and you've got something they can work on with, and it's this kind of market out there, you better hurry up and accept and get it over there quick. Now, moving forward, what if you just left and your buyer said, okay, I'll accept that offer. And they sent it to you by email, but you haven't forwarded it to the listing agent. So you have it signed, but you haven't delivered it yet. And the listing agent calls and says, Roxanne, we just ratified another offer. And you're like, no, because my buyer's already signed it. Well, I'm sorry, you didn't deliver it. Are your buyers, is that tough for your buyers? Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, tough. They ratified another offer because you didn't get it over there fast enough. You didn't deliver it. So it's sign and deliver. Sign and deliver, sign and deliver. Just remember the deliver. You got to deliver. All right. So seller responds in one of 3 ways. They accepted the offer. So it begins the contract to close process. They've accepted and delivered, it should say, accepted and delivered. So they reject the offer. Buyer agent contacts the listing agent to learn more. Why did you reject this offer? So if you're representing the buyer and they just sent over reject, won't you want to know why they rejected the offer? So you call the listing agent and you say, hey, could you just share with why you just completely rejected the offer? And they'll say, well, be honest with you, Roxanne, We have 4 other offers right now, and 3 of them are cash, and you're getting a FHA, and we just don't want to deal with loans right now. So we're just going to deal with these other 3 right now. So we just went ahead and rejected your offer so we could move on with these other 3 in front so your buyer can, you know, start looking for another house. Okay. All right, move to the next slide. All right, preparing to write the offer. Be fully prepared so you can work quickly and efficiently. Checklist can be found in your book on page 3 of your participant guide. Take a minute to read through the checklist. Which of these steps can be completed before the offer itself? All of them. Building rapport with the listing agent is so important when representing a buyer. Why do you think that is? For example, I'm getting ready to show a house to my buyers. Instead of texting them, can I show the house at 4 o'clock? Which sometimes I used to do, but what did I always do before I showed the house? I'm so glad you asked, Roxanne. So this is what I do. So I call the listing agent and I'll say, hey Marissa, I saw you listed this house on Big Island. I actually have a buyer that would like to see that this afternoon. In a perfect world, Marissa, what is the time frame the sellers want to move? If they had a perfect closing date, what would that be?
30 days.
30 days. That is awesome. And will they be moving out of town or locally?
Locally.
Okay. So do they need any rent back or anything like this? I just want to know before we get there, if my clients absolutely love it, I want to make this offer so clean and make it a win-win. Is there anything else you can tell me about the sellers and what their needs are, or anything about the house that I might not see just by looking at the MLS?
They have children, so they'll need time to get their children situated for school to move.
I would never say that.
Okay.
Only because that's fair housing. That's familiar
Okay.
status. But I would just say, you know, I'll ask. They might need a rent back because they're buying another house, but I'll ask because in this market, it's very competitive. So aside from the money, some people will choose an offer because it works better for them. And if I know as a buyer agent to design my offer that works so beautiful for the seller's needs, that's going to talk circles around my competition. And what else did it do with that listing agent?
You built a relationship with them.
What's on the back of Alice's business card? Building relationships one person at a time. It's all about that relationship. You want to make this entire transaction smooth. for not just you and your clients, but the other party too. That's the Keller Williams win-win.
So I'll tell you an experience that I just had this past weekend, and I think it's really smart. I went and looked at a lake house with my brother because he's looking over there. And the listing agent actually called me the day of our showing and was like, if you have 5 minutes, I need to go over some information with you regarding the property. There was an issue with the dock that was existing. There couldn't be a roof built on it because the neighbors and all of the codes with the lake. And I was so glad that he did that, because that was the first question when we got out to the dock that my brother asked. And I was like, I would have never known. It wasn't in the agent remarks. It wasn't in anything, but he called me before the listing to go over everything, what they've done to try to get it approved, what other options they had. But I think that's also a big thing with sellers agents. If you have time to do that, if there's a big thing like that, because it helps a whole lot with questions.
Yeah, but how? And I'm just saying, that's great. But a step above, as the buyer agent, that phone call's kind of good to when you're showing, and I tell this to do open houses. If you can get a hold of that seller before you do that open house, what other things about your property, Mr. Seller, that I need to know about that I wouldn't be able to just see walking through your house the first time? Oh my gosh, we have a trap door that goes down to a cellar in our master bedroom closet, and we cover it with a rug. Well, do you think the average buyer would know about the trap? I mean, do you see what I'm saying? Knowledge is power. And when you're showing that house and you go, what's your brother's name?
Tyler.
Tyler, I talked to the listing agent before we got here. Let me show you something cool he wanted me to show you. Even if it's not your brother, say Tyler was wow, my agent went a step above and already got some information that she couldn't read in the MLS. She's really working for me. Do you see how just a little bit more goes a long way? So when you're preparing to write the offer, there's a lot of things you can do way before you write that offer. I'll tell you this, I see it a lot. I'll pull the tax records and it will say the George Huffman Trust. And then I will go to the listing and they say seller, George Huffman. Call the listing agent. Has something changed? You have the seller is George Huffman, but the county is showing the George Huffman Trust. Oh, my bad. It is the George Huffman Trust. You have to write in the offer, seller, the George Huffman Trust. It's got to be what's on the deed. Agents make mistakes all the time. Could you have not seen that when you pulled the tax records before making the offer? I'm telling you guys, some agents just are not thorough. Be the thorough agent. It makes you look, it builds that fiduciary relationship that you need that will get your referrals because you work so hard. All right, next slide. Those are checklists to write an offer. You can look through all of those. Just so y'all know, at Keller Williams, we do not ask you, we no longer accept, rather I say, escrow, earnest money deposits to be made out to us. We want you to make it out to the title company or the attorney, whoever you're using for the closing office. So what do you need to know when you're writing the offer? Who they want to use for closing. Okay? Because that's who you're writing the escrow deposit to, this money deposit. Anybody have any questions on that? I personally think it's great if you can get that check at the time of the offer and tell your buyers, I am holding on to your check. This will not be sent until after ratification. So if you are negotiating a contract and it takes 3 to 4 days, you don't give that check at the offer. You give that check after all parties have signed all the negotiation spaces. Then you turn into the check to the title company or the attorney, whoever's closing. Okay? All right. Next. Shalaya, can you come off mute? Do people create offers in Command?
They can, but because we pretty much use it just for the commission part, we don't do a lot with that since we don't do the DocuSign thing in Command.
That's what I thought, so let's skip that, because we do .loop. Next. All right, guys, I'm gonna stop right here. We have been told by the state, by the Commonwealth of Virginia, we have this thing called buyer letters. It has caused a ruckus in our state because it has got into fair housing violations of talking about our clients, children, et cetera, avoid all buyer letters right now unless they're only to the facts of the home. For example, my buyers really love their home, especially your new kitchen, because they love the cook. They would be honored to be able to purchase this home. But don't go into, they have children, the medical conditions. Please just avoid any personal things or just don't do buyer letters at all. They're causing more problems than good right now. All right, next. Buyer offer objections. Just looking at something. All right. There are 2 common objections on page 8 of your participant guide. It's common for buyers to want to request that the seller make repairs in their offer. The objection handler script allows you to give your client information to make an informed decision about repairs they request when making their initial offer. We're going to go through a little bit of this. When clients want to make a very low offer right out of the gate, you want to make sure they know the possible repercussions of making such a low offer. So let's talk about this, because we're in a very different market right now, right? So some offers are coming in. We are doing a home inspection for informational purposes only, because the inventory's so low, guys. You know you're not gonna get a house if you start making a whole bunch of, we want you to replace the roof, we want you to do this, this, and this, because there's somebody right beside you or behind you, or it's gonna be presented, that they're gonna want the house the way it sits. So it's just different times. This adjusts by market of how to design an offer. But at the same time, there's some things that will not pass a particular loan product. Example, if you have peeling paint on a windowsill and you have a VA, VHDA, or FHA loan, and the seller thinks that's cosmetic, do you know the buyer can't even buy that house with peeling paint? So a good listing agent knows this. So if they have multiple offers and they have a VHDA loan versus a conventional loan and everything else being the same, what offer do you think they're gonna take?
Conventional.
That's right. Because they don't want to fix the peeling paint. Because the buyer's not going to be able to qualify. I mean, y'all will learn in this industry that every transaction, you're going to learn something. Do y'all know I still learn stuff? I take classes after classes after classes. I am huge into educating myself with what's happening out there in the market, because everything changes. VA, FHA guidelines change. I got to keep up with that. VA guidelines change. I got to keep up with that. So in order to keep up with all of that, going all the way back to our initial conversation of what do you need to do in this business, your vendor list. Remember, I keep on going through your vendor list and having conversations with your home inspectors, your appraisers, your loan officers. You should have constant rolling conversations, monthly. What's new? What does Alice need to know that's changed this month that I can convey to my sellers and my buyers? Make me better than I think I am. Keep me educated. Keep me educated, Sasha. Because guys, things change. God, there was one that I learned last year. Here's one. It was in Campbell County, and the Virginia Realtor contract and the Lynchburg Association Real contract has two definitions of septic and water inspection. And the water test is more specific to a VA loan in the Virginia Realtor contract, where they need this other type of test, which is written in the Virginia Realtor contract, but it's not written in the Lynchburg contract. And it ended up holding up closing for 3 weeks because the Lynchburg contract wasn't specific to what the VA buyer needed in the water test, but the Virginia Realtor contract covered it. So now in that transaction, the buyer agent knew, if I ever have another VA buyer, I'm going to always use the Virginia Realtor offer of purchase and all those forms, because it's more specific on this water test. Or if I ever use the Lynchburg one again, and it's a VA buyer, I'm gonna make sure I add this specific test that is needed, or they can't buy the house. That was news to me. And I've done this a long time, but I would not have known it had I not been the broker involved with these two agents in that transaction, and had to calm down the seller and the buyer because it was designated agency over at the company it was at. So our company had the listing agent and the buyer agent, even though they weren't the same, but I was the broker for both the seller and the buyer. So that was designated agency, but our company was the dual agent. You see how that worked? So boy, did I have some, conversations to just simmer down the boil that was happening on the stove. So education is power, power is knowledge. All right, let's see. This wants us to break into pairs. We can't do that. All right, anybody else have questions? This is a good time to open up the floor about home inspection repairs and stuff like that and putting them in an offer. All right, I'll give y'all one. Comes up a lot. Some home inspectors, do y'all know what a broken seal is in a window? The window itself goes up and down. The window itself, the glass is not broken, but it has a broken seal. What that means is it can get condensation in the glass and look foggy. Okay. Some home inspectors say that's a defect. Some home inspectors say it's cosmetic because it's still a working window. So if it really bothers your buyer, when is the time to ask for that one window to be replaced? Do you wait for the home inspection or do you put it in the offer?
The offer.
Yes. Because it may or may not be a defect in the home inspection. And if it really, really, really bothers them and they don't want the house unless they fix it, you better put it in the offer of purchase because they've already agreed to do it outside the home inspection repairs. They already agreed to it. Okay. If they put something in the agent remarks that the shed is as is, and that is disclosed to you, please be a good buyer's agent and put it in other terms that the buyer has acknowledged that the shed is as is. If the seller has acknowledged in the MLS that that the listing agent is related to the purchaser, please, as the buyer's agent, put in other terms, seller is related to the purchaser. That must be disclosed in the contract. So always look at the agent remarks in the MLS to what has already been disclosed and put it in the offer. Because if you're dealing with a multiple offer situation and you forgot to do that and everything else is perfect, what did you just allow that the seller now needs to do? Make a change. And making a change is a new offer. So make sure your offer is complete. Not giving them chances to have to touch the contract if everything looks good. All right? Go to the next slide, please. Next. Present the offer to the listing agent. Notify the listing agent of an incoming offer. Ha! It sure does sound simple, doesn't it? All right, call them. I just sent you an offer by email. Text them. I just sent you an offer by email. Please confirm you have received it. Why did Alice do that?
And it's delivered,
Huh?
time that it was delivered or and received.
And if they've never worked with me before, can my email go to a junk folder?
Yes.
Please don't assume ever, if you've scanned and emailed an agent, that they've received it. If you put in your email, please confirm the offer, and didn't call and text them, and you had a letter wrong in their email, are you ever gonna get a response?
No.
No. But what if that email actually went to somebody else that just didn't say, not me? In it, email it, text and phone call. Get a confirmation by something. So they can't ever come back. Alice, I gotta tell you, we never received your offer. All right, next slide. This is set a deadline. I want to talk about that too. If the listing agent has said, Roxanne, we're presenting all offers at 8 o'clock. Can you do me a favor and not have your offer expire at 9 o'clock? It puts a lot of pressure on people to give somebody an hour when you're knowing you've just been told they're going to present offers at 8. Don't give them an hour. Give them at least to the next morning at 10 a.m. or something. Just, I understand times, you always have that withdrawal that I talked to y'all about, but give the listing agent some breathing room. Just a little, don't get them too long, but give them a little breathing room to be able to present, let the seller make a decision and get back. So, but I wouldn't give them 2 days either. All right, next slide. Now we're on the seller side. You received the offer. You're gathering information about the buyer. Okay, what does that mean? I'm the listing agent. I've just received your offer. Roxanne just called me. Alice, did you receive the offer? Yes, Roxanne, actually, I'm looking at it right now. Before I present this offer, Roxanne, I got a couple of questions for you. What is more important to your buyer? The sales price or closing cost?
Our last.
What, have I even talked to my seller yet?
No.
No. But let's say I had a $400,000 listing and she's offered $390,000 and $10,000 back in closing cost. So that net is $380,000, right? Do y'all see this? The net to my seller is $380,000. I haven't even talked to my seller, but I'm talking to the Hold on, I need a sip of water. Talking to the buyer's agent, and I said, Roxanne, what's more important? The sales price or the closing cost here? Roxanne's gonna go, gotta tell you. They really, really need that closing cost. So when I go back to my seller, and I have a qualification letter of 390, because they can put whatever they want. But I usually think they have a little bit more room as a listing agent, because they are not gonna take 380. The sellers are like, no, I might help them a little bit. Well, if we're gonna help them a little bit, instead of keeping the 390, they really need that closing cost. Go all the way back to full price or even a little bit more than full price, because closing cost is really important. So they might want to come back at 410 and 10 back. Because I already know the closing cost is super important. Maybe they can't go to 410, but maybe they could go to 4 and they split the baby. But I mean, it's all in negotiations. But how did I know when I presented to my seller what was so important or what that buyer even could do? So guys, this is where your reputation comes in, to be able to have a conversation with the other agent. Okay. And now that you've had a conversation, you can effectively present that offer to your client. And then they respond to the offer. Next slide. This checklist for reviewing an offer. Make sure they have a loan approval letter or proof of funds. I would never, ever, ever, ever let any of my sellers ratify a contract without qualification letter and without proof of funds. Not do it. Say, we're ready to sign this, ready to send this, but my seller is not going to sign a thing without proof of funds or qualification letter. Time is, help me here. This letter means nothing. I want to know what lender they're using. They want to know if the cash offer, they want to know they have money in the bank. All right. Next slide. All right, presenting the offer. Notify the seller, we got an offer. You know if it's a good offer or not, you present it. You look at the price, the repairs, buyer motivation, the contingencies they're asking. Then decision, are you gonna counter, accept, or reject? Next. Kind of going over to that. Next. Next. Hi, Oz. Do y'all have any kind of questions? Either being on the buyer side or the seller side when there's an offer. Oh, and another thing, pet peeve of mine. It's not a contract until it's ratified. So please don't say, Mr. Listing Agent, I'm sending you over a contract. It is not a contract. That's a pet peeve of mine. I'm like, oh, do you mean you sent me over an offer? When is it a contract?
When it's ratified.
When it's ratified. Yeah, so don't Don't be that realtor that calls it a contract, please. Make sure you're calling it an offer until it's completely ratified. Did y'all know that, let me give you an example. If you have a buyer and seller that assign the offer, and in the contract, it says pending third-party approval. Do you know some agents do not think it's ratified? It is ratified. You have a ratified offer that has been signed by the seller and been signed by the buyer. Okay? Everything's signed, but there's a contingency. That contingency does not mean it's not ratified. It just means something else has to happen before it's completely approved, but you still have a ratified offer. If all parties signed the offer in all the places, it's ratified. What is ratification? All signatures and delivery. Delivery of the ratified offer is now a contract. Same thing. When it's all ratified, and the last person who ratified it, 3 ways. You make a call to the other agent waiting. We have ratified the offer. We have a contract. It is on your email and text them. We have a deal. We have ratified the offer. It's a contract. Text. Looking forward in a smooth transaction, Roxanne Kellerwood. Communication. Delivery. Any questions? All right, really quick, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up by saying this, because this is a big audit thing for federal and state. And companies get surprise audits. So if you have a listing, let's say the listing is 1977. It needs what?
Lead-based paint.
A lead-based paint disclosure. That is a seller disclosure for anything prior to January 1st, 1978. The seller also needs to sign a what? A Virginia property disclosure. You upload both of those in the MLS. They're both seller disclosures. Hear me out. You are now a buyer's agent. You go to a listing. You're writing the offer. The agent did not upload the lead-based paint because it was prior to January 1, 1978, and the agent does not have a property disclosure. Do not, under any circumstances, ever have your buyer sign a lead-based paint or a property disclosure with your offer and send it. Because it is not their disclosure and it's not their house to be able to sign a disclosure of a property they don't own. You call the listing agent. Mr. Listing Agent, I am preparing an offer. Can you please sign over the signed lead-based paint disclosure and property disclosure from your sellers so I can provide those in my offer? Never have your buyer sign a blank lead-based paint or Virginia property disclosure before the seller has signed. That is a big fine. You will get in big trouble. So will your brokerage company if it's ever done. They look at dates. They make sure the seller has signed it first because it's a seller disclosure. Hope everybody's got that, swallowed it, put it in their hat for the rest of their real estate life. Don't do it. They don't get it over to you. You check the box that it's not attached. Or you put in the offer. Waiting for lead-based paint disclosure. Don't say it's part of your offer because you don't have it as a part of your offer. You're gonna have to write in other terms. Waiting for lead-based disclosure from seller. Put it right in your offer. They don't get back to you. But don't you have your buyer sign that. They can't disclose something that they don't know. All right, it is, it's 12:01. Cinderella is gonna turn into a pumpkin. Any questions, guys? George, Hannah, anybody? Okay, tomorrow, the pizza party unfortunately had to be canceled because of COVID reasons. So we are still gonna live stream for those who did not buy a mega camp ticket. Tomorrow from 11 to 2, Shalaya will be sending out the link to watch Gary Keller. It is gonna be awesome. So we'll all be watching him live on Zoom. So I'm excited. You'll learn so much from that man. I hope y'all all attend.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye. Thanks, Shalaya.